Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships. Welcome to the Friday highlight video, which is going to be featuring the Tier 7 premium British battleship, the Duke of York, a premium counterpart to the also Tier 7 tech tree British battleship, King George V. And I quite like both of these battleships. They play quite similar. I did a video, I think, talking about both of them. I'll tag that at the end of this one, but I just want to focus on Duke of York today since it is the Friday highlight, and I'll do an upgrade commander build video on the Duke of York tomorrow. So one of the things that makes Duke of York interesting is her consumables set, particularly having a hydroacoustic search. Now this is a 4-kilometer detection of enemy ships and 3-kilometer of torpedoes, so it really helps you out. In general, I quite like Duke of York, as well as King George V. One of the reasons why, in terms of a Tier 7 ship, I like Duke of York is that she can still handle relatively well at high tier. Or if like your bottom tier, you're seeing Tier 9s and Tier 7s. Like this one, we actually end up getting top tier. We're against 6s and 5s, which is even greater for the Duke of York, just because of her high explosive main battery. So she gets these 356mm guns. She gets 2x4 356mm, and then a 1x2, meaning she gets 10 of these in total. And without taking any combat signals or toying with the fire chance, you have a 41% chance of a single shell causing a fire. And also that the armor-piercing shells have a shortened fuse time. So you're more likely to get a Citadel versus overpinning like a light cruiser, as an example. It's a 0.015 second fuse timer, where I think standard is like 0.033, if my memory serves correctly. So that works out quite well when you're trying to deal damage to Tier 5, Tier 6, Tier 7 light cruisers. So with that being said, so here we are. We're going to be this in domination mode. And I forget the name of this map, as maybe it's called Atlantic. I don't remember Haven. It's hard to keep everything straight. And I'm moving up a little more aggressive positioning. Now I can do this here because one is I have a good number of teammates in front of me. If this was like I was Tier 7 versus going against Tier 8s and Tier 9s, I wouldn't push in quite as this aggressive of a line. But I'm trying to be in a position where I can work my main battery and perhaps get some high explosive shells in on an enemy destroyer here in the Charlie cap. But we're going to slow down and avoid this New York salvo. I mean, harder to deal a good amount of damage with New York's main battery from range, but we still want to be mindful of that all the same. So I'm seeing what the destroyer layout is here, as now we're going to have one of our destroyers pushing into sea when I'm right behind the island. So let's talk a little bit more about the ship. So her repair party, it's a max HP per heal, 10,164. Of course, that also dictates if we take some additional commander skills. So then with the emergency repair expert, we can bump that up to 11,180. And this is a 60-second cooldown time as well. And if we take India Delta, we're going to bump it up even further, which for some reason it's not activating on my screen here. Yeah, 13,416 max HP per heal. So you have a lot of heal potential, which kind of helps you if you do end up being bottom tier against 8s and 9s as an example. But you're really trying to utilize your main battery as much as possible and trying to get positions. You know, kind of disregard this start play here, because I haven't been in the most ideal positions here and kind of keep catching myself behind islands, and I end up changing my mind because our team, if you see on the mini map, the reason why I slowed down to go left here is a lot of enemy teams more towards Alpha and Bravo, where our team is more Charlie and Delta, and the flanks won already, so there's no need for me to sell out further. I'm just going to end up making myself irrelevant. So that is why I'm going to take more of a direct end line now, seeing how things are playing out in the minimap. So having that awareness of what's happening is going to help us end up having ultimately a good result here, and that we're not going to be afraid to take pot shots at enemy destroyers. So like as an example, the max damage on these high explosive shells do 6,100. The armor piercing does 10,500. So if you get the opportunity to shoot some destroyers, perhaps like this Podvoisky, you should definitely always utilize that as a battleship. You know, granted, here at tier 7, yes, we have a hydroacoustic search. Yes, the Podvoisky has a very short torpedo range, like kind of T-Rex arm range, basically, where it won't be able to dump torpedoes on us without being detected. But the base XP values that you get for dealing damage to destroyers is much greater than if I did the same 2,000 damage to a battleship or a cruiser, as an example. Also, we want to try to make things more... give our destroyer teammates a better chance of running a gun engagement if they so find themselves in one. And we're also resetting this Podvoisky. So he's kind of sailing around in donuts here, being spotted. So we're preventing the cap longer, which is another reason to shoot destroyers. There's a lot of reasons to shoot the Podvoisky in this situation with our 10 356mm guns. And when our ground goes in, he's going to have a bit of a leg up now. But the enemy team is now pushing into Bravo, so we'll have to see if Grom plays smart or a bit safe, somewhat safe in this situation. The other thing you're trying to do with the high explosive shells with the Duke of York, kind of just like King George, if we can get fire set, you know, these British high explosive shells actually do fairly decently well in terms of incapacitations on enemy ships. And if we, you know, burn through some damage control parties, we burn through heals, ultimately Duke of York is one of those, it's a British battleship which you can farm damage out of ultimately as this, I don't know how to pronounce the name of that ship. I don't know if I've even featured it. I have it. Kind of like, I think it's like a tier 7 Boise, if I remember right. And we almost get the kill there, but not quite. But ultimately, you know, we want to be able to set fires, we want to overwhelm DCPs, so on and so forth. And I think this was a Gneisenau now, blew this DCP with the 1 fire reset, so I should have kind of kept focusing him, but now we're going to switch back to shooting him. And we're going to farm more defended ribbons as well, which is going to be also further helping our damage control party. The Gneisenau, you know, we did get an incapacitation on torpedoes. One of the things I'm expecting between this Gneisenau and also the Scharnhorst 43 is if they decide to rush. So I don't want to just be sitting broadside on. What would be better for me is to move up so that the Gneisenau or Scharnhorst, basically they have to chase me if they ultimately decide they want to go for it. And we can also switch to armor piercing, which we will. To illustrate that, you know, ultimately if you get some broadside battleships and cruisers, you should be firing the armor piercing with the Duke of York ultimately, all said and done. As the Jervis is about to go out, and this Podvoisky, so it's kind of weird, like the battleships are the ones who are playing a little bit more closer, while apparently the destroyers are trying to go for the C cap and our Grom's defending it, which is great and very helpful. So we're going to go ahead and switch to the armor piercing here now. We're going to be, one of the things that helps us here too, is if you kind of find yourself in a similar situation, we don't want to necessarily come to a complete stop. We do want to be able to maybe like a quarter throttle, half throttle, so we can move away from the torpedoes because these are 6-kilometer torpedoes that Gneisenau has. So we don't want to just come to a full stop. Like I'm still moving even though I slowed it down. But I also want to have a tight angle here where hopefully I can get more of a broadside salvo in on this Gneisenau. So 10,000, a little disappointed, but we got 3 non-pins, so I'm not sure if I hit some main battery turrets there as well. So I was hoping to get a little bit more, but now that he's going to go more bow into us, we're going to switch back to the high explosive. So Gunfeeder is helpful with the British battleships, in my opinion, in general. I'm not sure how much about St. Vincent. I still need to go through with that ship a bit more in future video. But we can also be intentional whether we want to overmatch his bow. Like we've got 3 pins there on the bow alone because we can overmatch with the 356. Or we could be more strategic and aim for the torpedo tubes that are exposed on the side of Gneisenau or Scharnhorst. That's something you can purposely aim at and incapacitate as well. Now we have the New York pushing in on us, and we're just going to kind of keep moving out and away. And I do need to be mindful there's an enemy destroyer still at play around here. Now I'm going to switch to the armor piercing, and another fire set there as well. And yeah, so the Hatsuharu is out there working in the mid, so we need to be mindful of that. The New York's put himself against an island, which basically means I know he can't turn out of the salvo, and we're close enough that he's really not going to be able to. so we can get even a Citadel in there. And smacking him pretty good. And I'd like to actually finish off this Podvoisky, but the New York is still broadside, and I'm like, he's probably going to turn away after he gets past Island, so I'll just instead shoot the New York, and we only get one overpin there. So probably would have been better if we would have gone for the Podvoisky just to get rid of him, but he hasn't been striking me as much of a threat, which I think ultimately is why I didn't end up going for him. We're going to switch to armor piercing now that the New York is going to be kind of kiting out in the way. That's a decent salvo with armor piercing. Otherwise, with the ship, we also do get depth charge airstrike. We don't have any submarines this match, but we can hit up to 9 kilometers away, which is nice for tier 7. I was worried it was going to be like 6 or 7 when I was looking at the statistics here. But it is nice to see that's not so bad. And now that Podvoisky is like pushing up, it's like, okay, you've knocked on death's door long enough, like you just need to go. So I don't really know what he thought was going to happen there, but hey, we'll take the kill. Now we're up to 84,000 damage. So again, this is, you know, since we are top tier, if there's tier 5s, there's not going to be a lot of hit points on the board ultimately. I mean, we could have ended this game even with more damage. I think if we played a little more aggressive, because, you know, you see also there's a Wyoming there, so there was a fail div where Wyoming division up with some tier 5s, and then the tier 5s got tier 7 matchmaking. So yeah, you got to be mindful of that, because that is quite painful to go through. So now I'm hoping to pick up the kill on the New York. See what that salvo does. We'll use the rear turret on the Wyoming, because I was pretty confident that my front turrets would kill the New York, but you see we had 1 torpedo protection hit, and the other, was it 5 shells completely missed. And that's one of the things with the main battery of Duke of York, is that her main battery can be a bit trollish. So you have a 1.8 Sigma, and then if you take the aiming systems mod, your horizontal dispersion will be 224.60 meters and vertical 134.76 meters. So Duke of York isn't a sniping battleship. Like, yes, we have an 18.2 main battery range, but she really plays best in the 12 to 15, and, you know, and arguably maybe even 10 as well, because when you're playing more of the, like, this low tier stuff, like, maybe I would say mid-range is more like almost 9 to 12 kilometers instead, where I've tier 8 in super ship, I say it's more 12 to 15 kilometers is mid-range. So you don't want to be really far back and away from enemy team, especially if you're seeing these more mid-tiers while you're in Duke of York. And then, not forgetting our Hataharu friend around, we are going to be popping our hydroacoustic search again here and helping us out. So you do start off with 2 hydros. You can take, I think there's, if it's only 2 you get, have we even used one yet? I don't remember now. But you do start with 2, so you can get a lot of hydros, so you don't want to be over aggressive in using the hydroacoustic searches. Especially, like, you know, right as you start the battle, right? You want to hang on to them a little bit longer. And I'm also paying attention to when I go dark, and I'm detected and so forth. Because I know the Hatsuharu has still been around here, and it wouldn't be surprising me if he has launched torpedoes on me. And then there's a Scharnhorst all the way down at J8, and that's certainly not how you use Scharnhorst. So, people saying it's a bot, I don't know, but his average damage in Scharnhorst was quite sad. So it would make sense if that is a bot performance. So this is also the Arctic camouflage for Duke of York, if you're wondering about that as well. So 107,000 damage with this 1 kill. You know, it was close getting 2 more kills there as well, but this didn't happen. We have a 2nd grade efficiency, 9 defended ribbons. So ultimately that's going to also boost up our base XP with all those things said and done. Then flipping over into the team score here, we're going to place 2nd on the team with our Omaha doing like really good. So actually it's good to see this, you know, despite it being a floating citadel, like the Omaha on an enemy team and our Omaha both top the team for each respective team. So that's like fun to see, because I really like playing Omaha. It just gets a little more nervous when you're going up against tier 7s. Here's the damage layout. We only took 32,000 damage. Potential damage was just over 1 million with a little bit of spotting. 12,000 with fires. Secondary battery had a little bit of action, but mainly it's our main battery that gives us the damage from the high explosive and armor piercing shells. And because it's a premium ship with premium account, we do decently well with the credits earnings, so 363,000 credits there after some spent costs there. So tomorrow I'll do a upgrade commander build video on the Duke of York. I think I forgot to say that this ship is in the armory. You can either get it for 101,000 coal, or you can get it for 10,100 coal, or you could use the 25% off coupon, whether for doubloons or for coal resources, and then like you'll drop around 7,500 some doubloons, and then around 75,000 something coal for Duke of York. So it is a cheap ship to pick up in that regard, especially if you're able to pick it up for coal. But if you like King George V, I mean, there's not a huge difference between the two ships. I think this is the consumable layout. Ultimately, I think you get defensive AA on the King George V, where you get Hydro on Duke of York instead. So if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you subscribe, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.